Now we're about to look at a vehicle that is the type of vintage four-wheel drive that inspired me to start this channel. This thing is amazing. Before we jump into the content, I did want to take a moment and thank my audience. We just passed a major milestone this weekend. We passed over 200 subscribers after only starting the channel a few months ago. So I'm going to make things interesting. I'm going to up the ante a bit here. If we can get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2023, I will personally mail a custom vintage four-wheel drive auctions t-shirt to the 1,000 subscriber. Check this out. This thing's awesome. So all you have to do is tell your family, friends, and neighbors about the Vintage Four-Wheel Drive Auctions channel, and I'm going to get one of these badass t-shirts into somebody's hands. Just take a picture of yourself with that 999 sub count and then hit that subscribe button. Hey, you could call me ambitious, but I have faith in this audience. Honestly, I'm just so happy there's so many vintage four-wheel drive lovers out there just like me. And I wasn't exaggerating. Vehicles like this are the reason we're all here. So you're going to have a big smile on your face with this restored 1964 International Scout 80. Before we launch into today's example, if you're new to the channel, I'm Trey, and this is Vintage Four-Wheel Auctions. We vet all the active truck and 4x4 category auctions on Bring a Trailer and highlight only the top tier of vehicles from this segment. So if you're in the vintage SUV market, you'll want to keep an eye on these auctions. With each video, our objective is to discuss and show you what to look for in a vintage SUV and what to avoid. Our hope is this simple video format also encourages interaction with you, the audience, on vehicle condition and ending price points. So before we get into the details of this 1964 International Harvester Scout 80, I'm going to give you a brief teaser with this video. This is what we're going to be doing a deep dive into today with this video. So what you just saw is the first look at this restored 1964 International Harvester Scout 80 4x4. The 1964 Scout is from the first generation of Scouts produced by International Harvester. Stick around, we'll get into more detail on the Scout 80 in the history section of this video. This one does have 69,000 miles on the clock, although it is being sold true mileage unknown, which is not unusual for a car of this vintage. It's also less concerning when a vehicle has had a full restoration, which this one has. We'll talk more about the details of the restoration in the pros section of the video. This 1964 Scout features a 3-speed manual transmission with a dual range twin stick transfer case. The Scout's been repainted red and features gray and black vinyl upholstery and a removable white half top. We've got 2 days left on this auction. There are 6 bids to $25,000. Currently, there are 29 comments on the auction. We're still in the early stage with this auction, but I do expect it to price in the upper tier of pricing for the first generation Scout. If you're in the market for an early model Scout in restored condition, stick around. We're going to do a deep dive into this Scout with the pros, cons, and pricing.
Meet the International Scout, Australia's newest, most advanced, go-anywhere four-wheel drive runabout. An exciting new idea in a good-looking, hard-working, all-purpose vehicle. Scout's extra-wide wheel track and lower silhouette give added stability, safety, and gracefully styled good looks. Its short 100-inch wheelbase makes it very easy to maneuver. Scout handles like a passenger car. Safe and smooth beyond all belief, Scout's riding comfort, Scout's ability to take the toughest use lies in its carefully matched springs and shock absorbers. Every component has been engineered to give lasting service. Scout is all muscle with no excess poundage.
Pretty cool to see the Scout as it was intended, off-road and in the elements. The first Scout debuted in late 1960 for the 1961 year model. The Scout, along with the Jeep, is considered one of the first in the 4x4 class, which eventually led to the modern sport utility vehicle. The Scout 80 featured a 152 cubic inch four-cylinder engine, which from the factory generated around 93 horsepower. The 80 was very utilitarian by today's standards, but compared to the Jeeps of the era, it did have more features. Features like the sliding side windows, a fold-down windshield, vacuum windshield wipers, and a straightforward interior with vinyl upholstery. Each model featured a pickup-style bed, and with the top, you had the choice of the travel top, hard top, the sport top, soft top, or the cab top roof. The first generation Scout was only produced for a short 5 years, but in that time, International Harvester sold over 100,000 units. To commemorate, they offered a special edition model called the Red Carpet Scout 80. The Red Carpet Special Edition was featured in a pearlescent white exterior over a red interior. They had low production numbers, about 3,000 units, making this a very rare Scout. Now let's get back to this auction that's live on Bring a Trailer. Let's look at the pros and cons of this 1964 International Harvester Scout 80 4x4. This 1964 International Harvester Scout 80 has had a fully documented restoration. It looks like they've taken painstaking care to keep the originality of this Scout. No subjective modifications here. The 2009 refurbishment included refinishing the body in red, refreshing the interior, overhauling the suspension and brakes, repairing the 3-speed manual transmission, and replacing the wiring harness and ignition components. With this refurbishment, it was noted that the body was separated from the frame, stripped to bare metal, and repainted red following rust repairs. The auction also notes the removable half top was refinished at white at that time. Like I said, this vehicle does come with full refurbishment records, which is nice for peace of mind. Additional work performed during the refurbishment involved refinishing the chassis in black, overhauling the suspension and brakes, and installing Monroe Sensatrack shock absorbers. Features with the Scout include gray and black vinyl upholstery, a white removable half top, white painted bumpers, dual fuel tanks, 15-inch steel wheels, drum brakes, a dual range transfer case, a front ball hitch, and bed liner material on the cargo bed and interior floor. Service under current ownership involved overhauling the clutch, replacing the second gear assembly and drive shaft U-joints, and resealing the transmission and transfer case. Really, for me, there are only two cons with this Scout, and they're very minor. The first, we do know the car is being sold true mileage unknown, and the sellers only added around 500 miles under their ownership. This is a 1964 Scout, so this is pretty common. Not to mention, this one received a mechanical and cosmetic refurbishment, so to me, that negates any concern with this being sold true mileage unknown. The other relatively minor one, and this is a preference thing here, is that this one has the half cab top and not the full top and back seat. This is an example of what I'm talking about. This one has the full top with back seat, which is just a little more practical. Again, not a big deal, just a preference thing. Trust me though, I like this one enough that I'm actively watching it. Could put in a last minute bid if pricing is not through the stratosphere. I'm not holding my breath on this one. Before we get into the pictures, we always review the comment section first. As I've said on previous shows, this is a best practice that can save you time when you're looking at pictures. The Bring a Trailer audience has extensive knowledge on these marquee vehicles and will often call out areas of concern. So you can take information from the comments and zero in on it with your pictures review. I also always recommend if you see something questionable with the pictures, ask a question in the comments forum. It can save you a lot of time and money when you're buying a vintage four-wheel drive. So this comment here, this is exactly what I talk about. This shows the level of expertise of this community. At Dos Equitar, only IH logo tailgates were available in 61 and some 62 Scout 80s. Starting sometime during the second half of the 62 model year, plus or minus, the tailgates became International Scout scripted, and those carried over through the 800B line. So the tailgate was replaced in the past. And this was in response to this other commenter's question about the tailgate. Thanks, One of 3K and Scout Geek, for your insights. One question, help us understand your IH tailgate comments. Photo 319 appears to show the IH tailgate on this Scout in 2009 along with the fabricated rear bumper. Could this Scout have left the factory with an IH tailgate? Just made the connection here. I wonder if the commenter One of 3K has one of the red carpet Scouts. That'd be pretty cool. Another comment here from One of 3K. It's uncommon, if not rare, to see this level of restoration in a Scout 80. Take, for example, the dovetails on the doors. They were painted the way they left the factory and not repainted the same color as the doors like greater than 95% of the wannabe restorations out there. A gem of a Scout. And congrats making it into Car and Driver. The 65 Champagne I sold almost 2 years ago also made it into Car and Driver, and I think that helped. What they're referring to is this Car and Driver article published on Friday, September 1st. That's pretty cool, and I definitely agree. I do think this will help the value of this restored Scout 80. If nothing else, it's just pretty cool to be able to print this article, take it with you to your next car show. Some positive feedback from this commenter here. Incredible photos and attention to detail. Color combination is iconic on the Scout 80. Love it all. So much effort and money to get it to this point. I hope it sells for a big number. I agree with this commenter. We're going to talk a lot more about price in the pricing section of this video, so definitely make sure to stick around. So jumping into the pictures, this auction has 384 pictures. I've mentioned that best in class when you're looking at an auction on Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids is 100 pictures minimum, so this one blows that out of the water. That level of detail gives you confidence that you're getting a full representation of the vehicle. This one has particularly good professional photos against this beautiful Colorado mountain backdrop. Like I've said before, I think this can add to the overall value and confidence of the auction. I love this first picture here, just showing that iconic look at this 1964 International Harvester Scout 80. I love the subtleness of this International Harvester badging. It looks exceptionally clean against the backdrop of this red paint. And speaking of icon, take a look at this picture number 2, really just getting to see this iconic Colorado mountainscape. For me, 2 things I love: nature photography and car photography. Bring those together, what a slam dunk. And this is what I talk about when I talk about good quality professional photography. This contrast makes this red paint in this Scout 80 pop even more. Nice profile picture here showing that half cab and truck bed. This is a very unique vehicle. We'll see more in the pricing review, but there were several other options for tops with these Scout 80s. In this picture here, you do see the IH or International Harvester badging on the tailgate of this Scout 80. This was also the subject of some of the commenters' discussion about the IH. Is that appropriate for the year? This is a nice picture here showing kind of a semi-profile. It really just shows the sheen of this beautiful red paint. Another nice picture here with that contrast of the Colorado nature background. I do also like the look of these steel wheels. I do like the low lighting with this one. The shadow really highlights the luster of this paint on this restored Scout 80. Love the iconic Scout badging featured in this picture. And even though this restoration was done in 2009, so roughly 14 years ago, this still has a lot of shine and mirroring in this paint. For me, I just really love this picture. You've got the white bumper, the International Harvester logo, Scout badging, and the black steel wheels. This definitely has the cool factor. This is a nice photo of the foldable windshield and also those windshield wipers that come down. Very utilitarian and very unique. It appears to have all original glass with this Scout 80. I was going to say, these do not look like BFG All-Terrains. These are BF Goodrich commercial TAs. Love the simplicity with these Scouts. No detail was spared with this restoration. Even this hardware is impeccable. Great bird's eye view into this cabin here of this Scout 80. Like I said, I love the simplicity of this thing. It's very analog, as they say. And like I said, really great restoration work here. This looks like it's factory original. And what you're seeing here is some of the bed liner material they applied during the restoration. Love the retro International Harvester badging on the steering wheel. Like we said, this one's got 69,000 miles on the odometer, but true mileage is unknown. Again, very common for a utility vehicle of this vintage. And for me, this is the money shot. The Scout is a 3-pedal manual. Here we have a view of the truck bed for this Scout 80. And here you get a nice view of this 152 cubic inch inline 4. Then you've got the manufacturer stamp and VIN inside this engine bay. They really did a beautiful job with this restoration, not just cosmetically, but also with the mechanical work as well. And here you get to see that beautifully refinished chassis in black. This thing really is as clean as it gets. This starts the restoration documentation of this Scout 80. As you can tell from these pictures, they did a lot of work on this Scout 80 to make it look this beautiful. And there you go, a few more pictures in, and we start to see it all coming together. And then fast forward, you have it in finished state. I don't know, if I was the seller, I think I'd be having some cold feet about selling this Scout 80. This thing is beautiful. Picture 355 starts a series of invoices and receipts paid for this Scout. Obviously, some beautiful work was done on this Scout 80. I hope it goes for big money. I wish the seller and the buyer all the best with the Scout 80 auction. So taking a look at pricing for this restored 1964 International Harvester Scout 80 4x4, we have 38 first-generation Scouts to compare to. In the past 2 years, the high water mark was around $100,000 for a heavily modded Vortec-powered 1964 Scout sold in 2021. Quite the range here. The low water mark for a Scout 80 was a Buick-powered 1963 that sold for around $10,000 in July of 2022. After reviewing the 36 other Scout sales, I feel like a beautiful restored 1963 finished in yellow paint would be the closest comparison. This one also received a cosmetic refurbishment and appears to be of the same build quality. So based on this benchmarking and this comparison vehicle, I think this is going to do very well on Bring a Trailer. So what do you think about this restored 1964 International Harvester Scout 80 4x4? We would love to hear your feedback on pricing and condition in the comments. Also, as I've said before, we are a new channel. If you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. This does go a long way to inspire the creation of future content. Thanks again for watching. See you next time for more vintage four-wheel drives.